Good evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. Welcome you all. Thank you for being here with us. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Police Chief Bill Carter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches, we're going to be hearing from Errol Briggerman from Wendell Baptist Church. Are you with us, Mr. Briggerman?
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much for being with us. You can go ahead.
Yes. So I just I had the opportunity to speak with New Hope Missionary and the pastor there he had an event tonight he could not get out of, and I'd be glad to step up and do this invocation for him. And I'd just like to, if I could, say, Wendell Baptist Church has opened, and we've been open about 2 months. Numbers are low, but we're still online, but we're growing, and we're seeing some of our other churches here in the community do as well, and that's really, really cool. So let us pray. Lord, we thank you for our community, Lord. We thank you for how this community, as one of them, has come together throughout this COVID-19 virus. We just ask you, Lord, that you watch over everyone here. We ask you, Lord, that you just put your arms around and protect all of our citizens of our community, and of course all of our citizens of our country, Lord. We are just so blessed by you. We just ask you, Lord, as this meeting progresses, that you watch over our commissioners, that you give them the wisdom that they need, and we say have, to make the decisions which betters our community. We just ask all these things in your blessed name. Amen.
Thank you again for being with us tonight. Moving to the adjustment of the agenda. Are there any adjustments to the agenda, or is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the agenda. Commissioner Lutz, motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda. Commissioner Joyner. Aye. Commissioner DeLoach.
Aye.
Commissioner Lutz.
Aye.
Commissioner Tarnaski.
Aye.
And Commissioner Boyette.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, now we're going to move into our public comment period. The public comment process has been provided in advance of the meeting tonight. The public had the opportunity to submit written comments to the town clerk, or were able to participate by submitting a request to participate via calling in the conference by emailing their name, address, and phone number to the clerk by Friday, August 7th at 5 p.m. The clerk is now going to unmute everyone who's requested to speak in the order their requests will receive, and you each have 3 minutes to speak. And I believe we have one person signed up tonight. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Amy Natal. I think I pronounced your name wrong last time as well. I apologize for that. Are you with us?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much. And no, that pronunciation is fine.
Oh, well,
and
thank you.
My name again is Amy Nuttall. I live at 4501 Rose Road. Yes. And I just wanted to review. I hope you read my comments that I had sent for the
Can I
agenda
get you
as
to
well.
hold your phone close to your mouth? Your voice is kind of quiet like mine.
Oh, is this better now?
Maybe a little.
Okay, I've got it right.
She's going away more and more.
Okay, you know what? Let me get in a different room of my house. Now, is this better?
Yes, ma'am, that's better.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
This proposal is by Ashton Woods is in keeping with what the Wendell residents and the prior boards laid out as a vision for this specific area of Wendell. Growth is inevitable. This plan affords many benefits to Wendell that other projects simply won't provide, like the open space, the parks, the lower density, the high architectural standards. And we have appreciated your time and your dedication in reviewing this and listening to everyone. And we have faith that you're going to follow your allegiance to your citizens and residents and make the decision that's best for Wendell. We ask that you accept this opportunity to voluntarily annex and rezone these parcels and vote yes to growth and opportunity for the citizens of Wendell. And I say let others come and experience the small town, big charm of Wendell. And I again appreciate your dedication to the town and appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, the consent agenda tonight, do we have a motion to approve?
Commissioner Lutz, motion to approve.
All right, Commissioner Joyner?
Aye.
Commissioner Deloach?
Aye.
Commissioner Lutz?
Aye.
Commissioner Tarnaski?
Aye.
And Commissioner Boyette?
Aye.
All right. We have no recognitions, reports, or presentations tonight, so we're going to move right on into our public hearings. The public comment process for these tonight has been provided in advance of the meeting. The public had the opportunity to submit the written comments to the town clerk, or were able to submit a request to participate via calling in the conference by emailing their name, address, and phone number to the clerk by Friday, August 7th at 5 p.m. The clerk is going to unmute everyone who has requested to speak in the order their requests were received. You have, I think, didn't they have 5 minutes to speak? Yeah, that's a typo. They have 5 minutes to speak. Please note that the board will take action on these public hearings on August 24th, 2020, according to statute. So item 5A is a public hearing for a non-contiguous annexation for a portion of a parcel totaling 10.272 acres located at 0 Eagle Rock Road and part of PIN number 17745511916. And we're going to hear from Janine Inguera. Did I get it right? I've been practicing that prior to the meeting tonight.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight's public hearing, the first public hearing, is on the non-contiguous annexation for 10.272 acres located at 0 Eagle Rock Road, part of PIN number 17745511916. We're asking for the public hearing to be held to consider approval of the ordinance for the annexation, but no decision can be made tonight. The decision will be considered on August 24th. The annexation applicant is 520 State Street, LLC. The 10.272 acres is a portion of a 23.29 acre parcel that's off of Old Tarboro Road on the south side. The address, as I said, 0 Eagle Rock Road. The applicant plans to subdivide the tract and develop the southern part. The zoning district right now is Wake County R30, and the request, it's being requested to rezone to R4. That'll be the next public hearing. Police and Public Works and Utility Service, the parcel will require services from the town, and water and sewer are available with the adjoining development. This is, it's kind of hard to see with that little piece there. Let me see. Can I just down that? Okay. There we go. Okay, as you can see on the map, the location is off of, this is Old Tarboro Road, and this is the parcel outlined in red.
Okay.
Staff recommends approval of the annexation request. And the applicant is available to answer any questions. And of course, I can answer any as well.
Okay. All right, well, are there any questions from the board at this time? Let's open the public hearing and hear from the applicant if they have anything they'd like to add.
Penny Sicaldo, you've been unmuted if you have anything you'd like to add.
Good evening. This is Penny Sicaldo, and I think the comments
would be appropriate in the rezoning petition, and that would be the next public hearing, so I'll reserve my comments for then.
Okay. All right, and I see we have no one signed up to speak at this one tonight, is that correct? Correct. All right, are there any questions from the board? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing, subject to the receipt of comments for 24 hours from the public. All right. Item 5B is a public hearing on the zoning map amendment request to rezone 10.272 acres located within the parcel addressed as 0 Eagle Rock Road off of Old Tarboro Road. And we're going to hear from Jean Ngora again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the second public hearing is regarding a rezoning request for the 10.272 acres located within a parcel that's addressed as 0 Eagle Rock Road, which is off of Old Tarboro Road. It's the same parcel that we just had the last public hearing on. The decision will be considered on August 24th, 2020. The applicant is Phoenix Land Venture, and they've requested a change in zoning classification from Wake County R30 to Wendell R4. This rezoning request is a traditional map amendment, which means there's no accompanying development plan, and which that would be a conditional district, would require that. This property abuts the Anderson Farm subdivision, which is currently under construction. The properties adjoining the parcel are residential, agricultural, and vacant, and the zoning classifications are R4 conditional use, R30, and that's it. The R4 district allows a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. North and east of the property is the Anderson subdivision, which is zoned R4 conditional use with a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. And the following are the minimum dimension standards for the R4 zoning district. That's a 50-foot lot width, 25-foot front setback, 20% of the lot width combined for a side setback, 20-foot rear setback, and a 3-story maximum height. And that is, again, the requested property outlined in red. The comprehensive plan defines this section as the S4 controlled growth sector and partly in a neighborhood center. These consist of lands that are close to thoroughfares and at key crossroads locations. Moderate intensity new development is appropriate. The majority of the community's new growth should occur in these areas. It includes traditional neighborhood development, which includes neighborhoods serving commercial and civic uses surrounded by a mix of housing types. And it also includes neighborhood centers, single-family, multifamily residential, neighborhood serving commercial uses, civic uses, and industrial uses. This is the framework plan showing the S4 zoning sector. The planning board recommended denial at their May 18, 2020 meeting. The TRC review committee, the applicant would submit preliminary plans if the proposed rezoning is approved, and a preliminary development plan would need to meet all of the Town of Wendell UDO regulations. The TRC would review and approve any preliminary development plans for the property. In staff's opinion, the requested zoning map amendment is consistent with the recommended uses outlined in the Wendell Comprehensive Land Use Plan for the S4 sector and is reasonable to balance consistency with adjoining zoning districts. And staff recommends approval of this rezoning request. The applicant is available for any questions, and I can answer questions as well.
Are there any questions from the board?
Commissioner Boyett,
Yeah.
what was the discussion at the planning board meeting? Because the 7-2 to deny a request like this seems a little bit odd. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yes, at the time, because it's adjacent to the Anderson Farm subdivision, at the time that project was on hold, it was being sold, but now, so they were concerned that because that wouldn't, they were concerned that there was a possibility that that would not be developed. And so now construction it's been sold and everything's moving forward with the construction. So that was part of the discussion, that if that Anderson property wasn't developed, then this might stand out relative to the other properties in the area.
Anything else from the board?
Commissioner Deloach, I'll just comment further on that. It was my understanding that was prior to, and the major concern from a couple of the members was the fact that there was a gravel road there with no real development in mind or under construction. So I think now that, there is something going in beside it, I think the thought process might be a little different now. Not speaking for them, but that's the information I got.
When was that planning board meeting? When was that held? Commissioner Lutz speaking.
The planning board, I think, was on May 18th.
May 18th?
Let me just check.
Yeah, that's correct.
Was listening in.
Yes, May 18th.
Okay.
Minimize? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm waiting.
I'm not sure if this is for the applicant or Janine, most likely for the applicant. There's an email that I'm certain that staff will be forwarding you, or a proposal that staff will be forwarding you about buffers on that southern property line. I certainly see the other areas developing beside it. That said, I think buffers are a good thing. You have a property owner that appears to have a property line abutting you just to the south there, and just wanted to know their thoughts on buffers beyond what is currently proposed or currently required, what you have in mind, and if the applicant would be willing to work through that.
Okay, before we hear from the applicant, I'm going to open the public hearing, and that way that'll all be in during that, but you can certainly go ahead and address the buffers. That was a question I had as well. There's some residential areas that are existing there right now, and I would kind of like to know about that as well. So if the applicant's with us, you can go ahead and speak to that.
Yes, my name is Penny Sicadlo. I'm a civil engineer and land planner for Penny Engineering Design. And tonight I'm representing Phoenix Land Venture and their request for this rezoning.
Yes, ma'am.
I will go ahead and answer your questions about it being willing to speak with the neighbors, and the answer to that is absolutely. There is, if you look on page 38, I think it was referred to in the staff presentation, there is some natural features on the west side of this property that will be buffered. We have some thought processes of extending that and adding some open space. The reason it is not a conditional use rezoning is because it is a small tract of land being bisected by a thoroughfare, and there's just not a lot of flexibility with the design. That being said, not every discussion with a neighbor needs to be codified in a zoning ordinance. I believe we can work this out. You have ample review by your staff, your development regulations can take all of this into consideration. And of course, we would have to have approval of the development plan once it came to you. There's just generally speaking, when you're being innovative or creative with your lot layout, you tend to go with a conditional use zoning. This one is pretty straightforward to your standard R4 development plan. Probably would be a nice cushion from the conditional use zoning to the east to the property on the west. So absolutely, we're willing to work with the neighbors.
Go ahead.
You know, I just appreciate you and them working together through the next, and I agree with you that it is a small tract and not necessarily requiring of a conditional use. That said, if you would work with the neighbors on these buffers, that would be of great assistance before it comes back to us in 2 weeks.
Certainly.
Anything else from the board right now or the applicant? Certainly, we can come back to you if you have something you'd like to add.
The only thing I would like to add at this time is that I do think that this has been a different review now that the development is happening in this area. We are matching the property to our east with lot sizes, and we are going to be extending thoroughfare road that they have kind of set out where it's supposed to start and end, and so we're going to follow that. The staff recommendation is for approval, and I certainly would appreciate y'all's consideration for approval of this R4 zoning.
Okay, yes ma'am, thank you. All right, we have some people signed up to speak tonight. We'll start with Ashley Anderson. Is Ms. Anderson with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Gray, members of the board. My name is Ashley Anderson. I live at 813 Eagle Rock Road. I appreciate those of you that took the time to read my letter, and those who reached out with questions. I really appreciate it. As I mentioned in the letter, my family and I are the 7th generation to live and farm our little piece of property in Eagle Rock, and while we feel that this is a drastic increase in zoning, we aren't naive. We do know that Wendell is growing, and it's growing out towards Eagle Rock, but we would ask that, you know, if you feel that this is an appropriate zoning designation, that you consider a buffer, whether that's through a conditional use or, you know, hopefully we can work something out with the applicant. I would like to note that although we are Andersons and we are all from the same family, we are not a part of the Anderson Farms development, and we don't have any affiliation with that project at all, other than sharing a last name. That being said, we did have our lawyer has also signed up for public comment, and I believe he's next. I just thank you for your consideration, and hopefully we can work out a buffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Brady Harmon.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Gray and members of the Board of Commissioners. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me here this evening. My name is Brady Herman. I'm an attorney with the Bro Law Firm in Chapel Hill, 1526 East Franklin Street. And I know the applicant said, you know, stuff about buffers to the east and west of the property, but I'm here on behalf of the Anderson family. Ashley Anderson is part of that family who just spoke. And their property is located directly south and a little bit to the west at the proposed rezoning. They're the owners of a small family farm of approximately 75 acres that are located off of Eagle Rock Road, and their homes are literally just a couple hundred feet from the tract in question. Now, as Ashley mentioned, the Anderson family is now the 7th generation to live and work on this family farm, so their family has a really deep and rich history and tradition in this Eagle Rock community since they've been living on this property since the mid-1800s. Now, the Anderson property is currently zoned agricultural with farm use, and as Ashley mentioned, they do not support this rezoning request because they are concerned how this increase in density from the rezoning will ultimately affect how they'll be able to use their property in the foreseeable future. Now, at the same token, though, the Andersons are realists and acknowledge and understand that Eagle Rock is a very growing and expanding community, and that future development is just an integral part of that process. just as it's happening in other areas and jurisdictions throughout the Triangle and as well as in our great state of North Carolina. However, the board does not have to approve the rezoning request as presented and should take this opportunity tonight to ensure that the growth of this Eagle Rock community occurs in a thoughtful and planned manner in order to address some of these concerns of future development moving forward. Therefore, the Andersons respectfully request that the rezoning, at a very minimum, be what's called a conditional rezoning, which would allow the board to impose various conditions to the rezoned tract, which here, all the Anderson family is asking for is just a reasonable buffer requirement between the proposed rezoning southern property and their property. According to town staff, there's no mandatory buffer requirement under the town's current UDO for multifamily developments, which, if this rezoning is approved, would allow an increase for up to 60 additional lots on the property for future development compared to just 14 lots that can be built in its current zoning district. Additionally, the rezoning request as presented contains no plans to accommodate or manage this drastic increase in lot density with the Andersons adjoining agricultural uses. The Andersons are definitely willing to work with the developer on this buffer requirement and are open to discussions with them, but at this point, the developer has not reached out to the Andersons at this time. And thus, a buffer requirement would be a very workable solution to help address and alleviate any potential negative impacts that could occur on both the Anderson property that's located directly south of this proposed rezoning and the overall community. So I'll just sum up in conclusion that the Andersons respectfully ask you all to consider a conditional zoning for this rezoning request that would require a 20-foot tree-line vegetation and landscape buffer to be implemented across the property lines that abut the Anderson property in order for this future development to better blend in with its existing community and the differing adjoining uses. So with that, I'm happy to go and answer any questions that the board may have with the time I have remaining. And if not, I believe Melissa Anderson is signed up to speak and can turn it over to her if need be. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody from the board have any questions? Okay. Melissa Anderson, are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor Gray. Thank you so much for just taking the time to hear us out tonight. I know we all really appreciate it. I do first off want to say I know my mom is signed up to speak also, but unfortunately she had a little bit of a medical emergency, so she can't speak tonight. But I know that she obviously shares our same thoughts, and I just want to say that, I second first off, I live at 313 Old Battle Bridge Road, right there in Eagle Rock as well. And, I second everything that Ashley said. I mean, we understand what's going on, and same thing with Brady. I just echo his words as well. And really just think that this would be better if we did have a conditional buffer along with it. So with that, I hope you guys do take that into consideration during the next 2 weeks. And again, just thank you so much for your time this evening.
All right, thank you. So if Ms. Anderson's not speaking, that's the last one that we have. Are there any additional questions from the board? Any comments that you have?
Mayor, Commissioner Lutz here. I'll just echo Commissioner Joyner's comments from earlier that I find in these situations, it's very nice that the Andersons are being as clear as they can to the developer on what they would like to see, that before it comes before us next time, that any type of agreement that has been discussed between the two parties be divulged to us. I think that it just works nicer for us, and I think it could work nicer in the long term by being neighborly. So I would encourage that as well. That's all.
Okay. Anything else from anyone else on the board? So we can expect that these two parties are going to get together and work out a buffer in the next little bit. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing, subject to the receipt of any comments that might come in the next 24 hours. I'm going to move into our administrative items now. Item 6A is a motion for a non-contiguous annexation for 4 parcels totaling 151.81 acres, 12.28 for PIN number 1765852510, 50.16 for PIN number 1765962276, 57.16 for PIN number 1765856251, and 32.21 for PIN number 1775042139, located at 4501 Rollsville Road, 0 Davistown Road, 1401 Davistown Road, and 6021 Yancey Drive.
Mayor and Commissioners, this public hearing was held on Monday, July 27th. So now is the time to make the motion on the annexation petition. Staff is here to answer any questions, and the applicant is also available to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, are there any questions or comments from the board about the annexation petition?
Here, I'll make comments.
Go ahead.
Commissioner DeLoach, I'm not sure what exactly can be said at this point that hasn't already been said over the course of the last 12 months. I'll give my thoughts, and I'll try to keep it brief. First and foremost, I appreciate everyone that's weighed in throughout this process. Most of it's been pleasant, and certainly all of it's been passionate. Responded to each and every text, email, and phone call. Had personal meetings with both sides. I've personally ridden and walked the area, attempting to gather firsthand information to make the best decision possible. I've said numerous times it did not matter to me how long this process took, whether it was 12 days or 12 months, as long as we get it right. The year-long process has given ample time for citizens to be heard, ample time for town staff to navigate speed bumps, including COVID. It has also given the developer an opportunity to make changes along the way. Each change made represents an improvement over the original plan. It's reflected in the conditions that far exceed the requirements for development of this type. For me personally, it boils down to whether or not this is an area that should be considered part of the town or part of the county long term. This decision I have to make is not only for today's Wendell, but also for the future of Wendell, many years down the road. That is what I was elected to do. A town of Wendell development means there will be transportation and road improvements, utility improvements, meaning water and sewer, and also architectural design requirements, ensuring that we get the best possible development that most everyone can be proud of. Each of these improvements would be provided at the developer's expense, not the town's, and would also include an area provided to the town for future parks and recreation development. A county development provides none of this. None. Over the past year, I've heard Wendell deserves better over and over regarding this development. I've seen repeated improvements to the point that it certainly satisfies and exceeds that desire. It is 1 mile from Interstate 87, which will also feature the future East Wake campus of Wake Tech and the ever-expanding headquarters of the Coyote facility close by. The future of this area is hardly rural. It is absolutely the future of the town of Wendell. We've approved other developments with minimal adjustments and discussion, and the positives for this one and our community as a whole far outweigh any negatives, in my opinion. Therefore, for these reasons, please know that I do support the annexation of the Wellish property and the proposed development before us tonight. Madam Mayor, just know that I am prepared to make a motion at the appropriate time once each member has an opportunity to comment.
All right. Let's let everybody have a chance to be heard. Does anyone else have any comments they'd like to make on the annexation petition?
I'll go ahead and speak up.
Okay.
As Commissioner Lutz here, I'll say kind of some things I've said in the past before. I'll just repeat them. Commissioner Lloyd's made some good points. I don't feel like this project was ever really a bad project. I don't feel like the developers were ever trying to put something on us that wasn't within a line of what we've seen coming to town before. I have a problem initially with just the annexating an area that is this far to the limit of what the town should be doing. To annex an area with such a higher density development in such a lower density area, it just seems very disruptive to the neighbors who have been there, to the surroundings and the environment. I understand growth will come to this area. It is close to interstate. I have concerns with annexing this as it is now. I feel like we're leapfrogging what potentially could be between the interstate, between the intersection of Roseville Road and Wendell Boulevard and this area, to put something in there that it doesn't fit. It just seems like we're putting something in a spot, or potentially putting something in a spot without really knowing what's going to happen around it. If this was a project that seemed to fit in nice and smoothly and didn't disrupt the landscape of the neighbors, then maybe we're talking about something different. The residents who live in this area, they didn't have a chance to vote on us as commissioners. They don't have a chance to have that voice there. So I really have a hard time with the town reaching out to its, in my opinion, to its far reaches and putting something in their neighborhood that they don't want and that doesn't really fit with the surroundings. I find it I find it a little disingenuous to go out that far to say, I know you guys don't have much of a say-so in this, but this is what's coming, and pop it down. And so I think that, and I know it's been said before that, something will come here and that, it could be worse. Well, we don't know that, and I don't think so. I think what would come there could potentially be better or different or something, but something that will come there. I have a hard time just annexing this area now, in this area with just basically reasons I've just stated there too. So I am not in favor of this annexation. I feel it's a little presumptuous in stepping forward, and that's what I'll say.
Anyone else, any other comments from the board? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Since I'm going to go ahead and follow Commissioner Deloach and Commissioner Lutz and address them what has been a year worth of working on this project. I've spent a lot of time thinking about it, considering the various options. This is an interesting one for me because it involves a lot of people that have been involved in a lot of projects that I've worked on in the past. It also involves a variety of convergence of different ideas. I appreciate Commissioner Lute's comments that he feels like the 3 miles is too far. I start everything, and if you've played this game and listened to me talk about annexation before, I start at fundamentally the private property rights of an individual. The North Carolina General Assembly established that 3 miles was the rule. This is within 3 miles, thus it meets the rule. It's not my job, nor can I expand that number 3 to 5 or 6 or another arbitrary number. I will tell you that the amount of time I spend at the North Carolina General Assembly and working in government work, that a lot of times numbers are just that. They're a number that was picked to be closest to what we think was right. So I would just under some of the logic that we've heard, if it was 4 miles, maybe it's different. I certainly hope that we don't allow that to be the case. We weigh everything on its merits. The beauty of just believing in individual property rights makes things a lot more clear-cut. In this particular case, I would, your property rights extend to the end of your property, and that's where they extend to. I completely understand why and how that can be confusing, but the only way that we can ensure that your property rights always mean that, the only way that I can be sure that I can do what I want on my property within my property lines is if I concede to you that you also have those same rights, that you're also entitled to that, those same property rights that I enjoy. I'm going to venture into a story to try to explain my logic here. When I moved to town, we picked a house in a neighborhood that my wife liked and that I liked. Thus, that's why we bought it. It had aesthetic features. It's a third of an acre lot, and directly to my north there was a 1 acre, or about a 1 acre lot. Ms. Ruby Boyette told me when we made the offer that lot had not been developed in all of Wendell's history. She didn't think it would be developed. Others told me the same thing. That said, my wife said, hey, that's great. I understood that not owning it, any of those things were possible. One morning, I woke up to graders moving dirt on the land next to me. And while I can normally, or used to, could stand in my front, side, or backyard and see Highway 231, there was new houses going up. They didn't meet the aesthetic design controls that were likely in place that created mine. They certainly were different in nature. And I want to tell you what the result of that was. Got neighbors, got really nice neighbors. And they built houses that were different than mine, and they were a different way of using the lot completely than the way that my lot was laid out. But it's worked. At the end of the day, I cannot extend property rights to someone else on land that you don't own. The way that this got to us was not because the town of Wendell went out actively banging the streets and saying, we'd like to find a place to develop out here. The way it came was the person who owns the property decided that they'd like to execute their property rights by selling it. If you can't sell your land, if you can't develop your land, you don't actually have private property rights. You don't have the ability to get rid of your property or sell it at market value. Now, I will be the first to admit that in development, just like in life, timing is everything. Sometimes timing doesn't work. Sometimes being able to buy the property across the way doesn't work financially or for other reasons. That said, it shouldn't prohibit the person that wants to sell it from pursuing their options. When we started this process, I remember it well, I was asked very early on if I would weigh in on it. And I said, I don't weigh in on projects early. I was actually standing with a 3-year-old that wanted to get into a cookie walk who hadn't seen her mom in a couple of hours. And Mr. Braswell was talking about density, and she did not understand his multiplication, nor did she understand mine. I said to Mr. Braswell that night, things change and these things develop. That's the process. You got to trust the process to work through things. And I meant it. And I talked to Mr. Cozart at Meet on Main, and I said, hey, we got to trust the process, and when we work through the process, if everybody's working on it, we'll get there. I intentionally don't weigh in early because I used to, and having sat through a couple of these, now I understand how they change and evolve, and then that's good. You heard just a few minutes ago that this board was completely in support of a private property owner and another property owner working on a buffer that's agreeable to the two of them. I think that's good government, I think that's a good community, and I think it's a good way to do development. That brings us to annexation. I lived in Rocky Mount, and the 3-mile rule and various portions of the way we do annexation resulted from big fights that happened back in the early 2000s around annexation. There are people that I know that were friends that still don't speak to each other because they wanted to, annexation became such a divisive thing. It was divisive for me. It got me interested. I, at the time, could not understand why government should be able to take property and put it into a zoning classification that those people never desired to be in. The difference was we're dealing with forced annexation. That meant back then if I wanted to annex Oak Level, which was the development they were talking about, but in this case the Weathers Farm, I would annex everything in between it. I would catch all the people in between it and sometimes the ones around it through the process. That changed. Satellite annexations became the new norm. Satellite annexations have brought us things like Wendell Falls. Not all annexation is bad. Not all development is bad. The process is what will get us there. I've heard a lot of talk about, and I know that others have mentioned this, Wendell can do better. Well, I agree with that. We have been able to do better than we've done in the past, and we will do better in the future. Time has proven that everything that we do, we improve on, and we are doing better. I want to touch on for a minute, though, I mentioned a couple folks that I respect greatly and that I've talked to through this process. There was another time, and thinking of Mr. Strickland here, the last thing that he and I worked together on was the Wendell Rams. The Lake County Public Schools wanted to change the lots and use Thompson Field taken away from the football team. Now, a lot of that process was the same. We formed a group. We got real loud. We said things to people that didn't understand or hadn't heard from the first time. We had the Historic Society involved in it, and we laid in. This board worked together. We asked the county to stop. We asked for meetings with the public school system. We drove that effort. It all seemed to be fine to an end, and I sat in the county commissioner's chamber by myself. It was socially distanced before it was cool. And I remember Commissioner Holmes saying to the group very clearly why she was making the decision to vote and to pull from the agenda and to ensure that what the community wanted at that time happened. The town of Wendell had approached the county commissioners and told them they had a problem with the way the county school system was going about the business. We asked for them to sit down, we offered to make concessions, and we offered, most importantly, and I advised everyone at the time that we had to do it this way, to stay at the table as long as absolutely possible to ensure the best end product for them and for us. Lake County Public Schools, as many of you will recall, maybe you will, walked away from the table essentially after 2 rounds of conversations and said, hey, look, this is the best we can do and we're going to do what we can do. And they actually asked the county commissioners that day to decide in their favor. Commissioner Holmes said, I hope that this vote is a reminder to all people that come before this board that when we ask you to sit down and work out your differences amicably, it's not because we do not feel the need to do it, it's because we feel you are best suited to do it. I've been asked by the developer multiple times in this project, what can we do to improve it? What can we do to make it better? Early on, so let's make it like Pepper Point. I've got a picture from Frank Braswell where he's taking pictures of Pepper Point and a subdivision in Zebulon at the time. I said, hey, look, it seems like what we're looking for is something like Pepper Point. Later, at a later planning or later meeting, we had design standards in. That was a result of them talking with the mayor and Commissioner Woods. The density concerns began. Other questions began. At every point, the developers come back and give them something and said, hey, look, we'll give you this. We'll concede that. It's never been in the form of a concession. It's always been in the form of what can we do to get this project going? What can we do to make this community happy? I asked a series of questions at the last meeting, one of which was, are there any buffers or any concessions that have been asked for by adjoining property owners that haven't been given? No. The other piece that I'll speak to is the public safety portion. Mr. Greg Jones will remember and Commissioner Boyd will remember several years ago, I had another conversation with the county commissioners. This conversation was with Commissioner Calabria, because at the time, the Bethany Church Station only had 2 firefighters assigned to it. We were running not a full fire truck. I called Commissioner Calabria and said, hey, look, you're in charge of the fire commission. You've got a problem. Here's how this is going to play out. We need more firefighters out there, because the first engine out there is going to only have 2 firefighters. If the fire's out that way, we're going to have issues. We added that firefighter that year. As a matter of fact, Commissioner Calabria helped get Wendell Fire Department money to hire a part-time employee until we could get a full-time employee. This year, we added 9 full-time employees in a new station. New station located in Wendell Falls. All of that growth is attributed to growth in public safety. I know that there was concerns about the public safety aspect. Commissioner Boyette rides a fire truck every day. Well, every third day. I worked in public safety. My dad worked in public safety. My grandfather worked in public safety. I understand that concern. We start the annexation request with a staff's assessment that each of the agencies have identified that they can provide service to those areas. Also, every other plan we have in place creates the growth that goes along with this growth. I understand at the end that this may seem too far. It's a mile from water. That water that's going to run by these homes is not going to interfere with folks. As a matter of fact, it's going to increase property values. It's going to increase the ability to access water, which for me is important. About a year and a half ago, you guys can go back and you'll remember when I brought up we have a drinking water issue in eastern Wake County. It's a thing we bring up, but then as soon as we go away, we quit talking about it. At that time, the county said that over half of the wells in Wake County are in the eastern side of the county. That makes sense. We've got a lot of growth on the other side. Problem is that 1 in 4 of those wells has radon that causes cancer, radon that causes all sorts of other things. But radon that can just be expensive to the homeowner, like myself, who buys it, and after a couple years, or maybe after a couple months, figures out that their well is contaminated, and that's now a $15,000 replacement for a reverse osmosis system. Those are risks that people take into account when they think about moving places. Also, we have to figure out a long-term solution to water in eastern Wake County. Continuing to dig small wells, not the answer. Specifically, when every testing agency out there tells us that 1 in 4 wells we dig will be contaminated. This alleviates that problem without impacting the people that it's helping. It increases water values. The other thing it does is give the 3rd firefighter out at Bethany Church a hydrant to hook up to when he's fighting the fire. That's all done at no cost to us. I can assure you if it was cost to us, it would be a bond referendum on a ballot because it's real cost. DOT improvements being done before the project COs are done. These are all improvements. I don't know what else on the improvement list to be done can be done. I don't know what else to ask for because everything that we've turned to and asked for has been granted to this point. At the end of the day, this rezoning is no different than the one we did before this one, or the one we did the week before that. I understand that this one is tense and that folks have decided to use it in elections, to use it on social media, to be upset about it. And you're right to be upset. But at the end of the day, I've got a decision to make. The decision that I have to make is this the best product we can get? And should this area be town? Wake Tech has decided that this area is ripe for growth. In 2000, the county identified this area as coming for growth. Coyote's looking to expand, or Coyote's announced it and we've been to their expansion. We'll continue to expand. This area is ripe for expansion. I look forward to sitting down in the future while I am, able to read tea leaves. I'm also able to think a little past that. I understand that each of the folks that are involved in this process want the best product. I look forward to working with you on getting the best product. This problem, as it's described, is not going away. People need houses, we have land, and more importantly, people in this community that desire to sell their land have to be able to do so. I appreciate you listening to me. I don't think that this is any different than others, while I certainly understand that it has been made to be confusing at times because of the forms and the ways that we have processed through, some of that based on just the process and some of it based on other technologies. I feel like I can honestly say that everyone that has attempted to speak, I've heard. Everyone that's emailed me, I've responded to. Every phone call I've gotten, I've called back. I, like Joe, I was a little underprepared. Mr. Parker can tell you he arrived with a muck boots and a shotgun, and I was wearing loafers, but we were on our way to different places. I think that's the beauty of Wendell. We can be on our way to different places and all agree on how to get the best product. I look forward to working towards getting the best product in the future, and I support the request.
Does anyone else from the board have any comments they'd like to make about the annexation request? See everybody. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me, ma'am?
I can hear you.
Awesome. I'm going to start off by talking about things, the things that don't concern me. Number one is the quality of the project or the quality of the product. It's been given a lot of attention. Builders don't build projects in Wake County that are not going to sell. I'm not concerned about density. I live in a neighborhood where I can, or at least I like to think I can throw a baseball and hit probably 8 other houses, depending on how my shoulder's feeling. So I'm not concerned about density. I think, if anyone's ever heard me, I think density is a good thing. It's more economical as far as the town is concerned for a number of reasons. There are a few things that do concern me. One of them is not only how far away from the town's corporate limits that this project is, but the direction it is. It doesn't seem to fit in the area that we're trying to push growth into, which would be a triangle bounded by Wendell proper, the intersection around 87 and Roseville Road and Wendell Falls. The Weathers property falls outside of that triangle. We have numerous other projects that are falling inside that triangle, either right around the Wendell corporate limit or inside that triangle with the Eagle Rock project. There are a couple other things. As a fireman, I just got done working almost 6 months out at Station 2, and I drove past those John signs every day I went to work. And all I could think was, man, it sure would be nice to have some fire hydrants out here. And the fireman will tell you, given a choice between dumping water into a kiddie pool to fight a fire or hooking up to a hydrant and not worrying about it, they'll take the hydrant all day. I would sure love to see water and sewer extended out, at least as far, if not further. To come back to that point, the best way to get water into these unincorporated areas would be for Wake County to have a proper water authority and not allow the city of Raleigh and their elected officials to determine when and where we can and cannot extend water. Johnson County has countywide water, and they're much more rural than we are. Johnson County has realized that in order to get development to reach out into some further areas, that they needed that water. In order for Wake County to get development into its more rural areas, all we have to do is wait, and the developer will pay for it. And it seems like a lot of people are happy to stick with that paradigm, but it undercuts a lot of communities that have existed in Wake County in the unincorporated areas for a long time. And it shortchanges a lot of lower income areas who don't have a developer willing to bring water to them, which is currently the only way you're going to get water in Wake County, is if a developer wants to put in a neighborhood and request annexation on a parcel. I would love to see water out here. And I think ultimately one day Wake County will have countywide water. But putting that burden on the back of developers, seems, I don't know, not a very equitable way to do it, I'll say that. As far as the concerns of the citizens that live around this proposed development, they did make some very good points, and they also made some not so good points. It did feel like there was a lot of goalposts moving when it first started. The townhomes were a big note of contention. The townhomes were pulled out, and then it was, well, it's still really dense. Well, I get that it's dense, but that's the way neighborhoods are built these days. I mean, it's just, builders don't do this for altruistic reasons. They're doing it to make money. I don't think anybody can fault them for that. But what it really boils down to, for me, is that, I'm tasked with deciding what's best for the citizens of Wendell. And I think on balance, this project's going to pull resources away from the core of downtown. It's going to pull public works further out. It's going to pull police further out. And for the amount of tax revenue it's going to bring in, I don't think it's going to offset that. It does expand our footprint, but it expands it way out. The other thing about this whole intersection, is ripe for growth. If you've driven through there are a couple of parcels that sit right beside the highway that are vacant, but it's pretty much houses and a high school, and one other open field until you get to this neighborhood. I don't see too much other development infilling back in this direction, other than perhaps down Robertson Pond Road somewhat, and a lot of that's in protected watershed. And so I just don't know the arguments that, that this area is ripe for growth. I do think there's going to be some growth out there, but it's going to be sporadic. At the end of the day, it's a real close call for me, and I have hemmed and hawed on it for quite a while. Hemmed and hawed means vacillated for you Raleigh types. And so, but at the end of the day, I don't think that this project is totally right for Wendell. Oh, one I forgot. I'm sorry. Let me come back around. The property rights issue. I wholeheartedly agree with the property rights argument. I think people should be free to sell their land. And I think people should be free to do with their land what they want within reason. If we didn't have any zoning laws, we'd be like Houston. And that's a hot mess. I mean, they've got, toxic waste dumps beside elementary schools, beside strip malls. It's without zoning, without appropriate and thoughtful zoning, you end up with neighbors that ultimately just don't get along. But the fact of the matter is that these property owners are free to sell their land, and they are free, and they currently have the right to build homes on this property. The town of Wendell denying this request does not deny them those rights. They still have the right to sell their land, and they still have the right to develop it under the county's rules. The idea that we deny an annexation and it denies these property owners their rights is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They have the right to build houses on this property. But as any good real estate person will tell you, location, location, location. And this property just is not prime location, at least not right now. It's not. It may be in the future. We plan for the future. We like to think we plan for the future. This one might be a little bit too far out in the future for us to worry about right now. It's a little too far. And more importantly, we have a whole lot of undeveloped land that we need to fill in before we start trying to expand our footprint. So, thank you for your time, Mayor. That's all I had to say.
Okay. Anyone else from the board? Now I've got a few comments. When I first became aware of this project, And I'm just going to discuss the annexation right now because that's what we are supposed to be considering right now, not the quality and nature of the project.
Madam Mayor, you won't be able to do it on the second one.
Excuse me?
I thought we were all trying to speak on the first one.
No, you can, this is the annexation that we're talking about right now, and that's all I'm going to talk about, is the annexation. I was concerned about the distance. I heard some rumblings about it. We all did. And so I got in my car and I rode out there and I kept looking to the right. Where's Davistown Road? How far is it? I kept thinking I was going to be right on it. You can sit at the intersection at Davistown Road and you can look up and you can see the interchange, the bridge that goes over Highway 64. Now Interstate Highway, but I'm always going to call it Highway 64. And I thought, well, gosh, maybe it isn't so far, but it honestly, I have not, pardon me, been able to get past that concern the entire time. The reality is, and this is something that came up throughout this whole process, it's 3 miles from our town limits. That was, you know, and frankly, the development itself is beyond the 3 miles. There's a little piece that's been connected to it to get it within that 3 miles. So the development itself is beyond the 3 miles. It puts the town of Wendell, and I think about it from how's the town going to proceed. It puts us in a position where we've got a lot of backfilling to do. We have a lot of blank filling in of areas instead of developing from the inside out. Now, that's an idealistic approach, but you know, in my opinion, that should be our goal, and then we should maybe be flexible on the occasion that something is not exactly like that, but we need to start where we are, which is in the center of our town, and grow out. And I think to jump out 3 miles beyond our city limits is a gigantic jump. And it puts our town in, it challenges us. It has been a challenge. We've faced this challenge before and we still haven't met it. It's one of our strategic goals, in fact, is to fill in between Wendell and Wendell Falls. That's how much of a challenge it became. We have enough strategic goals. We don't need to add another one. Yes, there is going to be some development out there, but you know, it's been very slow to develop, and Wake Tech is going to be wonderful out there, but it's still different when you get over that bridge. It's different there, and I would prefer to let growth happen naturally, and fill in the areas that we have that are blank, which are numerous, instead of jumping out and creating additional challenges for ourselves. It will dilute our resources. It will cause us to have to split our focus into more areas, and now that's a natural thing that happens with growth, and we will grow with it and we'll handle it. And I can promise you, we will make sure that as we grow, we have the resources to take care of these new places. We will hire police, we will hire staff, we'll take care of it, you know. But I think that on this occasion, this time, this is way too big of a jump. And that's my opinion, and it's from the annexation only, and it's been my opinion all along. And I've listened to everybody. I've met with everybody. I've heard all the arguments, and I still feel very strongly that way. So, all right, does anybody else have anything they would like to add?
Madam Mayor, just would point out that the way that we do growth, when we talk about we're going to need more police officers, we're going to need more firefighters, we're going to need more, yes. The short answer to that was yes. And when we look at it and we decide that we're going to grow in that way, it's our job to fund that. It's our job to say it's time to put more police officers on the street. We did it. There's 4 officers on every shift now. There used to be 3 because we knew we needed to address some Wendell Falls and other growth issues. Regardless of this development, and this is the point that I was attempting to make earlier, regardless of how this one plays out, regardless of how the next one plays out, when we grow, or just when more crime begins occurring, we're going to have more police. It's the responsibility of this board to respond to that, whether it's convenient for us at the time or not. I'd also just say that natural growth occurs when we allow growth to occur naturally. When you, by definition, that is not boxing it in and saying it can only occur in very small segmented areas. I certainly want to see infill development. I've been in more than one long meeting on this board because we, at the time, didn't want infill development. We have all these other places growing on the fringe. We're going to grow. Every projection that we have says, I've heard double ourselves in 10 years. That growth's coming, so we're going to be allocating new things. You're going to see more police officers. All of that growth is occurring. And the market trends that they study to get those growth numbers are things like response from builders, response from the way we go. I'm trusting the fact that those numbers mean we need to get prepared and we need to have a plan, and I see that as the first step in it. I'm certainly understanding I'm not persuading people, but wanted to highlight that the growth portion is coming. We're going to have to address those things, so we need to be working together, and everyone has to stay at the table. They have to do what we asked the Andersons to do tonight, stay at the table and come up with the plan, because ultimately, in this scenario, you have a very willing seller and a developer at this point that has been very cooperative. I have to imagine that we will be seeing these PIN numbers pop up again in our future. Not because I want them to or have any desire for them to, but that particular scenario creates an environment where if they want to sell their land and they want to develop it, they can continue bringing items before us. So we got to come up with a plan, because the problem doesn't go away just because we decide that we just want to annex it and then we won't have to deal with it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I wasn't disagreeing with you about resources. I just think that at this time, I would rather see the focus of our resources. I was patting us on the back. That
No, absolutely. My comments were no way directed to you. I realize that I'm just including my part of that in my public safety.
It has been mentioned that we, in a negative fashion with regard to the town, and honestly, it bothered me a little bit that we would need to do all these things, and we're perfectly capable of doing those, and as we grow, we will do those, whether it's out there, infill, or whatever. We're going to need more of everything, and we're capable of having that and facilitating it, and this group is capable of doing that, and we will continue to do that. I just feel like at this time, that's the point of this board, whether or not to have this annexation, and at this time, I would not see it to be in our very best interest at this time. Okay, did we have a motion? Or does anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
Yes, ma'am.
You ready? All right.
Yeah, if nobody has anything else, I will make a motion to approve the non-contiguous annexation of 4 parcels totaling approximately 152 acres along Rollsville Road, Davistown Road, and Yancey Drive.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the non-contiguous annexation for the 4 parcels. I'm going to poll y'all, the board. Any discussion on the motion?
It's Commissioner Deloach.
Yeah. I'm going to poll the board. Commissioner Joyner?
Aye.
Commissioner Deloach?
Aye.
Commissioner Lutz?
Nay.
Commissioner Tarnaski?
Nay.
And Commissioner Boyette?
No.
All right, so the motion fails 3-2. All right, it's my understanding that if 6A failed, we would not need to address 6B because you cannot, municipalities are not permitted to change zoning on land that has not been annexed into the city. And we're going to hear from the attorney.
That's correctly stated, Mayor. You would have to have jurisdiction over it to rezone it, which means it would have to be in your corporate limits or in your ETJ, and with that vote, it is neither. So no actions required on the rezoning request. All
right. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to item 6C. It's a motion on a request by Brian Duncan of Spalding Group, PA, to rezone approximately 68.55 acres of property along Old Zebulon Road within the parcels identified by PIN number 1794-157657, PIN number 1794056758, PIN number 1794256786, PIN number 1794161410, PIN number 1794052762, and PIN number 1794066233 to an R7 conditional district. And we're going to hear from Janine Ingora again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The public hearing for this item was held on Monday, July 27th. So we request that the board make a motion on this item. Staff is here for any questions, and the applicant is also available for questions.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for staff from the board?
I have one, please. Commissioner Lutz, Janine, we got an email today from a citizen who I think lives next to that property. I had asked this question last time regarding the buffering and the fence and those locations, and I think there was more discussion between the property owner and the developer. Is that something you can address, or is it more for the developer to address what was decided?
Yeah, I believe that the applicant should probably address that question.
Okay.
We have them with us. Brian Duncan, I believe?
Yes.
Are you with us, Mr. Duncan?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, did you hear the question?
I did. We did address that concern. The concern was in reference to the privacy fence and where that fell within the buffer. The neighbor was concerned that the privacy fence was a little too close to their property line and offered little to no screening between our property line and the fence. So we adjusted the buffer. We adjusted the fence location. We added some screening in front of the fence to soften the appearance of the privacy fence, and we ended up doing that on all the buffers out there. So there is both softening of the privacy fence on the inside of the project as well as the outside.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Lee?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board for staff or the applicant?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the R7 conditional district for properties located at 0 and 815 Old Zebulon Road.
All right, we have a motion to approve the rezoning request for properties along Old Zebulon Road. Is there any discussion of the motion? All right, Commissioner Joyner?
Aye.
Commissioner Deloach?
Aye.
Commissioner Lutz?
Aye.
Commissioner Tarnaski?
Aye.
And Commissioner Boyette?
Aye.
All right. Moving on to item number 7, other business. We're going to hear some updates from town board members, and the one we have tonight is from Wendell Volunteer Fire Department Board of Directors, Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Wendell Fire Department Board of Directors met last Thursday. As you can see, we're still taking all due precautions to keep our firefighters safe when they're not working and in quarantine. We're thankful for the wellness of our firefighters as they continue on a daily basis to be out there. We talk about things that drive growth. One of the things that the fire department is seeing in growth is just through the positioning and being stationed out at Station 3. Call volume increased a lot last month, even in a time period where theoretically we should be getting a few less calls because of EMD codes. So location is indeed correct, and having a fire station on the side of 87 is something that drives call volume. I believe that is all for the fire department, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. We'll move on into our commissioners' reports and stay with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Enjoyed I have 7 windows open on the notes, and there's no end on that note. So, if you haven't been out for a socially distanced beer, it is a beautiful place if you like history. It's a beautiful place if you like Wendell. It's a beautiful place if you like beer. It's a beautiful place if you like beautiful places. they did an amazing job there, and seeing that open and what that's brought, what that will continue to bring to downtown is awesome. Also seeing the artist over the weekend painting the mural, also was a very cool thing. I want to address real quickly Roosevelt Road again, and say that I certainly appreciate the board that we're working with. I appreciate everybody expressing their views, and I appreciate being able to work through these problems by talking about when we ask folks to get out there and what we're asking them to do is work things out amongst themselves. That's the original version of doing things correctly. It's important for us to, by the same measure, when you believe something, to stick with it. I certainly can do math and certainly understand that based on the pickup truck signs that I saw in the last election, that this is a political issue and likely one that I'd be best to avoid. I happen to know a lot of folks that have talked through this process, and I know one that they know how to reach out to me, but the other piece is they know that I know them well enough to know that if I don't vote my conscience every time, it's not really any point in me being here. So I'm going to vote my conscience even when I know what the outcome is going to be, because I think these are important conversations to have, and I think framing them in different ways each time we get a different proposal, it's important for us to talk through the problem again, because occasionally you find the solution when you actually sit down and talk through the problem. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner DeLoach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of brief points. Golf cart registration event actually finished up tonight at 8 p.m., but it also will go on tomorrow night from 6 to 8 p.m. In the Wendell Falls subdivision. So if you're in Wendell Falls, need your golf cart registered, do so from 6 to 8. Excuse me, this coming Friday, I, along with my lovely wife, will be participating in a podcast out at the East Wake Senior Center at 3:30. We're going to discuss some lighter topics. I did go to the audiologist last week, and I'm happy to report that regardless of what some people think, I hear quite well. I do have selective hearing at times, obviously. But we'll have that conversation at 3:30, podcast, videocast, whatever you want to call it, and I will have a report next meeting from the Senior Center. So stay tuned for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Lutz?
Yes, ma'am. I will echo Commissioner Jordan's comments that yeah, the BOD did open up, and it is just a beautiful use of an older building that they have just really put a lot of sweat and love into, and it looks just fantastic inside. Whether you enjoy beer or not, I'd encourage you just to walk in there and just look around, because it sure is nice. And then we can also, we have the meal coming in along with the rest of the paving project, which I look forward to seeing all that finalized, and it's going to put a really pretty nice bow on the entrance to as I call the lower half of our downtown too. So I encourage the commissioners who work so well together, because we continue to talk and discuss and have different opinions, and I hope we can continue doing that. I encourage us all to continue doing that, and like Commissioner Joyce said, vote how you feel convicted, how you feel compelled, and that's what we're here to do. So thank you again.
Commissioner Komorowski?
No comment tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We're like a family around here. We can disagree. We still get along. And I've often said that if every vote was unanimous, then there wouldn't be any need to have 5 of us. We could get by with 1, right? Again, it was tight on me. This was a brain scratcher for me. And there were a lot of good arguments both ways. But once again, I want to thank everybody that put in input, citizens of Wendell, citizens from out in the county, hearing from other interested parties and people who I thought would have never had a horse in the race, and their opinions too. I think that's how good governance should work, is when government, listens to the people. And, but it doesn't mean it's always going to go, you know, one way or the other. I've certainly been on the other side of several of these. But it's nice to see everybody taking their time and working through it, and staying as positive as we can be about it. I also had the good fortune of being able to go with my better half to the Bearded Bee. I thought it was excellently well done. My only disappointment is I have to travel farther to get my weed eater work done now, since the small engine repair shop had to relocate. But overall, what a great use for that building. Opening up the ceiling so you can see that old timber frame. I really enjoy it. Owner was kind enough to give us a little tour around, and I thought it was, what he's done there is just absolutely amazing, and I think it's going to be a great benefit to the town. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. We have lots of new openings and things going on in town and more to come. So it's an exciting time to be in Wendell right now. The Bearded Bee is beautiful. If you haven't been in there, I had the opportunity to get a tour from Mr. Perry, maybe, I don't know, a year or so ago, Mr. June Perry. And he carried me all in there and talked to me about the stalls and the mules and this and that. And it was, I have developed as a result a very sentimental feeling about that building. It reminds me of my late grandfather who farmed with mules. And so it was very nice for me to go in there and see how beautiful it is now. And it made my heart smile in addition to my face, because I was so happy to see something of our past preserved and of that generation preserved, which Mr. Perry and my grandfather are the same generation. And it was nice to see that. It's nice to see it here in our town, and to think that maybe we all played a tiny part in it is a great thing. So if you haven't been, I'd urge you to go take a look. Wear a mask. Socially distanced. There's a lot of great things to see downtown right now, new restaurants, new things opening, so please take a look. There's also a beautiful new mural in progress, and you can watch the painter if you can catch him between storms. I feel like that we live in Florida right now because we have a thunderstorm every afternoon. It's what they always tell you when you go to Disney World, to be ready for the rain every day, and that seems to be happening here right now. But it's beautiful, and I'd urge you to take a look at it. And I appreciate all the work that the Appearance Commission did and town staff getting that organized. Last, regarding the Rollsville Road, the one thing I would like to mention is that it has gone on a long time, but it was very nice to hear from so many citizens. A lot of people were really involved and engaged and felt very invested in what was happening. And we really appreciate that. Honestly, there's a lot of times where we're begging people to tell us what they think, and I appreciate your engagement. I appreciate your emails and your phone calls and things that I've received regarding this and your opinions, because I want to know what you think, and we all do. So thank you for that. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.